Okay, in this video, I want to talk with you about the 7-year seasonal period, which we have learned that the 1290 days that are mentioned at the latter half of the 7-year period from the time witnesses are killed until the abomination of desolation is set up as spoken of by Jesus to Gabriel in Daniel 12. That cannot be a lunar time times and half a time. It has to be a seasonal time times and half a time. Now, we've also learned that the beginning of the 7-year period the first 3.5 years, or time times and half a time, also has to be based on a seasonal year. It can't be based on a lunar year, because a lunar 3.5 years is not 1290 days. It's actually 1239 days. So a lunar year has 354 days times 3.5, 3.5. is 1239. Nowhere in scripture does it actually say, I think we just added this in, that nowhere in scripture does it actually say that 1260 days is a time times and half a time. Okay, so we know the first half of the 7-year period, the first time times and half a time has to be 1290 days if the second half is 1290 days. So God has already given that to us. He's given it to us not directly, but he's given it to us by telling us that the latter half is 1290 days. We also, by the way, know that the witnesses are going to be jailed for 10 days, or that some of the witnesses are going to be jailed for 10 days. So we already know that the first half has to at least be 1270 days. So this is not a time times and half a time. This is not fulfilling that definition. Okay, so we know 1290, 1290. The witnesses begin that 7-year period when they start to prophesy. Now, we learned recently from Daniel 9, 3 things that God is actually doing, not the Antichrist. Previously, we had understood that it was the Antichrist. That's a false translation. It is a false interpretation. The 77s are something that God is doing. And so when you have this last 7, the 70th 7, at the end of time, or at the end of this age, it still has to be this, that God is doing this. So he is the one who is confirming this covenant with many for 1/7. Now you might say, well, didn't he do that when he came here? Yeah, he did do that when he came here. And then people decided to follow the Antichrist. And so truth was thrown down. And people were pursuing counterfeit Christianity. That covenant, in other words, has not been in effect, because if you're not fulfilling the covenant, you're not going to receive the reward. You can't go up in the first resurrection. So there's been this period of time in which truth has been thrown down. And so if the things that I say to you are peculiar, or you're wondering, well, you can't be the only one who knows truth, that's the reason why. It's in the scriptures. You can't argue with you can argue with me, but you can't argue with the scriptures. When the witnesses come at the beginning of that 7-year period, God is extending this covenant. He is confirming a covenant with many who are living in the covenant, who are actually responding to the covenant, who are listening to what the witnesses are saying about this is actually what's required in the covenant, and these are the things that we've been lied to about. That's what he's doing in this 7. Now it says in Daniel 9, verse 27, he will confirm a covenant with many for 1/7. That's the 7-year period. And in the middle of the 7, half, 3.5, middle, 3.5. In the middle of the 7, God, is ending sacrifice and offering. What's the sacrifice and offering? Is it animal sacrifices? No, God's not ending that. His son has already come to sacrifice. He's ending the sacrifice and offering of the witnesses who testified for 1260 days. And no doubt have continued to testify. If I'm doing it, I would imagine that they're continuing to do it until the time when they're taken away. So in the middle of that 7, God is the one who puts an end to sacrifice and offering. And in the King James Version, listen, most of the versions, including the NASB, I think the NASB had the most disgusting interpretation for this sentence right here. I'll read it to you so you can see how disgusting it is. But it says in the King James Version that for the overspreading of abominations, he shall make it desolate. Does that make it clear that God is the one doing this? For the overspreading of abominations, he shall make it desolate. He's talking about the Antichrist, even until the consummation, even until the fulfillment, and that determined shall be poured upon the desolate. So he makes them desolate, and then the wrath that is determined for them in the next 45 days, from the 1290th day to the 1335th, as spoken of by Jesus to Daniel in Daniel 12, then this fits with Scripture. It does not make sense in the NIV version to say, and at the temple he will set up an abomination that causes desolation until the end that is decreed is poured out on him, because what these translators of the NIV version are implying is that the Antichrist is the one who has set up an abomination that causes desolation, and that until the end that is decreed is poured out on him. But that's not what God is saying. What he's saying is that because of the abominations that are covering them, the overspreading, he is the one who is going to make desolate, and then he's going to bring this great wrath during those 45 days till the 1335th day. And then again, of course, we know when the seventh trumpet blows and the bowls of wrath are poured out. But this is what he's talking about right here. Now I'm going to show you the NASB, because this really was the worst translation that I came across. It upset me so much because I've heard so many times people say, oh, the NASB is the most accurate version of the Bible. No, it's not. Here's what it says. And he will confirm a covenant with the many for 1 week. But in the middle of the week, he will put a stop to sacrifice and grain offering. And on the wing of abominations will come the one who makes desolate. This is what's disgusting about it. On the wing of abominations will come the one who makes desolate, until a complete destruction, one that is decreed, gushes forth on the one who makes desolate. So God, who is the one who makes desolate, is going to gush forth desolation on himself. That's what they're saying. And I'm going to tell you why this is so disgusting. Because people are constantly acting like the devil is sovereign. Like the devil has, this is the devil fulfilling his plan. God is just sort of, there like going, no, you can't do that. No, you can't do that. Like God is just somehow impotent. And I'm sick of it. God is the one who does these things. He told us in Isaiah 45:7 that he is the one who separates light from dark. He's the one who brings prosperity and destruction. He is the Lord. He does all these things. He tells us in Ezekiel 14 that Ezekiel is going to be consoled when he sees the conduct and the actions of those he's brought destruction on, and that he is the one who has brought all of this destruction. So I'm just sick and tired of people acting like Satan has some sort of power. He doesn't. You are giving him power. You're giving him power by that narrative, by that idea, by that fear. You're giving him power when you succumb to him in your flesh, and when you don't turn to God. There are times when God gives certain power to Satan, or permission to Satan to do certain things, as he did with Job. But God was the one who did that, which inherently means if you have to go to the big boss to get permission, you don't actually have power, guys. Because that same permission that you have can be revoked the same as it's been given. It's God who has all power. And if he does permit the devil to do something, it's because he's doing something. He's testing you. And if you turn to him, then you've just removed the power of the devil to succeed. The idea that Satan has power is coming from a place of unaccountability and abdicating your accountability, your own power, over to Satan. You have more power than he does because you can make a decision to resist him. Do you realize that? And God isn't the one sucker punching you. If you keep choosing that spirit, you're going to keep getting sucker punched because you chose to hand over your power. You chose to sell yourself into bondage. All right, we've established here in Daniel 9 that at the midpoint of that 7-year period, the witnesses, the sacrifice, is going to be ended. And who's ending it? Yes, the devil, through the Antichrist kingdom, through the beast. We have to make a distinction between the dragon, which is the devil, and the beast, which is the Antichrist kingdom, through whom he does his bidding. So the devil, through the beast, is going to rise from the abyss, overpower, and kill the witnesses. Does that mean that the devil has terminated the witnesses? Well, he's had the power to kill them, but that is something that God has permitted, and therefore that is something that God is doing and that he's using. It is God who has said, it's time. This is the time for the witnesses, the sacrifice, the offering that he has given you to be removed now, to be taken from you. Have you used it correctly? Do you understand it that way? Do you understand that this has been a gift to you, that this has been something that God has offered you? Because most of you spit on it. The witnesses are taken away. The offering, the sacrifice, there's a reason it's stated that way. Because this is something God has given you, a sacrifice. 1,260 days of sacrifice he has given you. And then he's going to take it away. At the point that this is taken away, Satan is now on earth. He has been cast out of the heavenly realms. Yes, this happens at the end of the age. It does not happen at the beginning. From the time that the witnesses are killed, this is the start of the second 1,290 days. But this is not yet the beast's 42-month reign. In Revelation 12, after Satan is cast out of the heavenly realms, there are 30 days at the beginning of that 1,290, the latter 1,290 days, the latter times and half a time, in which Satan, the dragon, is pursuing the woman. Now, how does Satan, the dragon, pursue the woman? He tries to accuse you. He's in God's courts accusing you. But Satan's been cast out of the heavenly realms. He's no longer able to be in the heavenly realms accusing you in God's court. He no longer has that audience with God. So you're going to see different language from the midpoint on. And part of that different language you see in Revelation 9 is that those who had the seal of God are not tormented with the plague that is brought on those who don't have the seal of God. Now, we already know that the seal of God is placed on the servants of God prior to any of the trumpets blowing. This includes the 144,000, the witnesses in Revelation 7, and it is represented in the multitude in white robes in Ezekiel 9. But there's different language being used in Revelation 9 because a little further down in that chapter, it tells you that those who did not die of these plagues, which those who did not die of the plagues are also those who do not have the seal of God, and that no one repents. So there's already been something decided here as to who is going to end up being saved and who's not. And really, this has been decided since before we even got here. It's been decided since before the trumpet started blowing and the seal of God was placed on the foreheads of his servants. It was decided before we even came in, when we were still evil. So the dragon, Satan, he doesn't wield the power that he wielded before, when he was able to just stand there and accuse God's people in God's court in the heavenly realms. He's been cast down. He's triumphed over. The dragon, Satan, is now going to use this Antichrist kingdom. Many antichrists have come. That's his Antichrist kingdom. Those through whom he's going to do his bidding. And this is how he's going to fight a war from here on earth. He doesn't have the ability to do that from heaven anymore. He has to do it here on earth. And so he's going to go out to annihilate many, as Daniel 11 says. And he's going to do this through the beast, the kingdom that he has set up. He does not have power to fight in the heavenly realms anymore. He's going to use the power he has to fight in the earthly realms through this beast. In Revelation 12, verse 13, it starts to describe what he's going to do in that latter 3.5 year period. Times and half a time. Seasonal times and half a time. The latter part of the 7-year period. When the dragon saw that he had been hurled to the earth, he pursued the woman who had given birth to the male child. The woman, the church, was given the wings of the two wings of a great eagle. so that she might fly to the place prepared for her in the wilderness, where she would be taken care of for a time, times, and half a time, out of the serpent's reach. Out of the reach of the dragon. The dragon can't touch her anymore. No one can take her out of God's hands. Then from his mouth the serpent spewed water like a river to overtake the woman and sweep her away with the torrent. But the earth helped the woman by opening its mouth and swallowing the river the dragon had spewed out of his mouth. And then the dragon was enraged at the woman and went off to wage war against the rest of her offspring. So there's a separation here between the woman and the rest of her offspring, those who keep God's commands and hold fast to their testimony about Jesus. Now, something similar, there's similar language that's used with the witnesses. And I've tried to explain this to you guys before, but many of you are so worldly and so incredibly self-centered that you don't understand that God did not call you to him because you're so special, nor did he call you to him so that he can just lavish on you all of these blessings and it can just be about you and healing you and, oh, he just follows you around all day. This is your counterfeit version of Christianity that you guys just soak up. You love it, love it, love it, and you hate what the prophets tell you. Here's the truth. You don't belong to yourselves, guys. Do you understand what redemption is? What he established in the Old Testament, that if you go and purchase something, you get to use that thing however you want. Well, guess what? If you've actually been purchased, if you've been redeemed by God, what that means is that he has purchased you. You were in slavery. He purchased you out of slavery. And he's not saying like, okay, now go, live your best life. Now you serve him. You're still a slave. But you're a slave to a good master. You were a slave previously to a very bad, wicked master who wanted to destroy you. Should you not appreciate this? Should you not have an attitude in your heart of, you took me from the worst pit of hell and brought me into the light, brought me in so that I might live to enjoy the light of life. Should you not be like, how can I serve you? What can I do for you, Lord? Because you just did something for me that I can't possibly repay, but I'm going to try. I owe you with my life. Or is it, phew, I don't feel that bondage anymore. I feel so much peace and joy, and I'm just going to continue to relish in this and go continue working on my kingdom here on earth and choosing all of these worldly things. Do you expect to keep the gift if that's your attitude? Because I know what I've done. I know what I've watched my kids do. The minute God revealed himself to me, the minute he revealed himself to my kids, we've been willing to give up everything. Every comfort we have here, every status, every luxury, we've been willing to give it up, give all of it up, and speak the hard things to people who don't want to hear it and think we're nuts. So I can't stomach what you guys do on this channel. That you listen to the message, but this is not what you do, because you don't feel any need to come back here on the channel and say, this is my testimony. Here's what I'm learning. Here's what God's doing in me. I don't see you guys doing that. You don't. I've tried to explain to you, but that if you are still in this selfish place of it's just about me and it's just about what God wants to do for me, and oh, he just loves me. And he's going to chase me around, and I'm just going to pray for all the things I want and pray for my will and of my understanding, and this is the way that I'm going to live my life. You can't be saved that way. You can't. There is an order to the way things need to happen. You need to be cleaned up. You need to be healed as an individual. Then you need to walk in the authority that he's given you. Which means, as an employer, as an employee, don't act like because you're an employee, oh, well, I don't have anything to offer here. No, you have to do that job and serve as God has said to serve. If you're a slave, then do it well. That's what the word says. Do it well. Serve your master well. So don't act like you don't have any responsibility. You just want to stay in that small place. That way you can be a wicked and lazy servant and not contribute anything. No, do well in what God has given you. He will give you more. This means as a spouse. It means as a parent. Someone has been talking with me recently who is a parent and has been doing this work that I have outlined in Heart Known series. She's been doing this work, And now she's seeing where this is affecting the relationship, where her issues have affected her relationship with her child. And now God is moving her to start working on her own stuff so that she can walk in that authority correctly. That's what the word says. If your house is not in order, don't expect to serve in his house. Now that right there, you're still not in his house yet. You're still not a priest of God. Do you understand? Like this is so basic. If you have not done well with the trust that he has given you, don't expect to receive more trust. And if he tells you that those going up in the first resurrection are holy, blessed and holy, and priests of God, and they're going to serve with him as priests in the 1,000-year reign, but you're still stuck worrying about yourself and praying for the things that you need yourself, and you keep slipping back into sin. You don't slip back into sin. You made a decision. Own it. You cannot be identified as being God's temple or his house or his body if you are not participating in being the body, in using the lampstand, the testimony that he's built in you, being used to build up the body. As 1 Corinthians 14 says, that each person, brothers and sisters, are supposed to come to the assembly and bring something that has been built in them by God. Oh, but you guys are too busy, right? You're working on your own house. You bought a field. You just got married. You're too busy to come to the banquet, right? If that's your attitude, you're still thinking about yourself. You're not in him, and you will never be in his house. So there's this distinction in which the word says that 2,300 days into that 7-year period in the book of Daniel, that the church, the temple, is going to be reconsecrated. Well, why? Aren't you in the church already? Not if you're not serving in the church. Not if God has not healed you as an individual, healed the trust, the house that he's given you, and then you're serving in his house. Now, when he puts that seal on you, when he puts that trust, that seal of approval saying, you've done well. Now I'm going to give you this responsibility to serve in my house. And then he anoints you with true gifts. I'm not talking about the ones you guys make up, because you guys make up a lot of gifts. Oh, my aunt has the gift of prophecy. My aunt has the gift of tongues that turn out to be babble. And prophecy is some delusion in somebody's mind. I'm so sick of hearing about that. I'm tired of it. And the little tests you guys take at your counterfeit churches to tell you what gift it is. Not that God would build the gift in you and you would know for certain what it is he has you doing in his house. It's you guys treat him like he's an idiot. Like he's just giving you gifts. Those gifts are to serve him. If you want to be part of the woman, the church, the body, the kingdom, the government, if you want to be part of this, you need to serve. And you need to do the work that you're supposed to be doing individually. Then he will move you to walk in the trust you've been given in the house he's placed you in. Then you will serve in his house. Then you can be the woman. So when he's saying these things, like the church is reconsecrated 2,300 days into the 7-year period, that means you're not part of the church yet. When he says that the temple is being removed or thrown down, that the sanctuary is being thrown down. When he says that in Daniel, what he's saying is those who are serving in my house, who are my house, are going to be removed. When he says here in Revelation 12, but the earth helped the woman by opening its mouth and swallowing the river that the dragon had spewed out of his mouth. And then the dragon was enraged at the woman and went off to wage war against the rest of her offspring. They're not identified as the woman, are they? And so just like the witnesses have been testifying something to you and living it out in front of you, you don't get to ride on the coattails of that. You don't get this by osmosis. You have to live it out. You're not part of the woman yet. But I know people who are. I know people who are living this out. My children are living this out. And they will be part of the wise who are instructing many, as is written in the book of Daniel. And they are part of the woman, provided that they continue to be moved and anointed by God to bring people in. The word says in the book of Isaiah that the witnesses are going to see those they bore. We don't see them before we leave. At least not all of them. By the grace of God, he's allowed me to see my children come in. But that our children are going to be carried to us, and we're going to say, who bore me these? I was barren and exiled. Who bore me these? You know what the witnesses have been going through? I've been telling you how grieved I am that I don't see any of the fruit of my labor. Surely not compensatory to what I've sacrificed. Thank God I get to see my children. But I won't see the rest of my children. Those who will come in through my sacrifice, through the sacrifice of the rest of the woman, of the wise who will be instructing many. And then I'm going to see the fulfillment of that. Do you know that Jesus, when he was praying in the Garden of Gethsemane, said, I don't pray for the rest of them. I'm not praying for the world. I'm praying for those you've chosen to me. Did Jesus know who God had chosen to him? Who the Father had chosen to him? Did he get to see all of them? Because my recollection of Scripture is that there were 3,000 that were brought in after he died at Pentecost, that they came to believe. And then, of course, many more since then. But Jesus didn't see his reward up front. He didn't see his children up front. He saw some. And so you think that the apostles who were going through all of this persecution and they were teaching others that like those others just came in and like there's some sort of favoritism. God's putting all this hardship on the apostles, all this hardship on Jesus and the prophets and, the people that came before. But he's like, oh, just come on in, guys. You don't have to do anything. Kick your feet up. Oh, we're so glad you're here. And you know what? We want to give you gifts. We want to give you gifts just for you. Just, here's a gift. Babble it into the air. It's pretty stupid, isn't it? It's a pretty stupid thing to believe. No, you got to serve just the same as everyone else has served. But you got to learn how to do your own work in order for God to bring you into a place where you are worthy of serving. Now, let me tell you something else. There is not a group of Jews, some ethnicity, that is going to do this for you. They don't have a separate covenant than you do. The covenant is continuous. This has been provided to you in order to understand. The Old Testament was provided to you in order to understand the fulfillment of things. And actually, Christians have more of a burden on them than the people in the Old Testament, because the fulfillment of things holds you to a higher level of accountability. And yet the wicked narrative is, oh no, they've already paid all that. They've already done all that. No, that was for the Jews. Really? You understand that if you're a Christian, you're a Jew, and if you're a Jew, you're a Christian. There's no other reality here. There's not like Judeo-Christian. If you know what Christianity is, you know that that statement is redundant and stupid. And that if you haven't accepted Christ, why in the world would you say that you are Judeo-Christian? You're not Judeo-Christian. And if you have accepted Christ, why in the world would you join yourself with a false Judaism and say, oh, we're of the same people? Yeah, you are. But you're of the Antichrist because you're a fake Christian joining yourself to fake Judaism. Christianity is the fulfillment of Judaism, and being a Jew is defined by circumcision of the heart. It's not defined by DNA. Or God would not say in Revelation 2:9 and 3:9 that there's a group of people calling themselves Jews who are not, but are of the synagogue of Satan. Here's my point in making this separation. You want to be part of the woman, you need to bear the fruit. You need to work out this covenant and stop being wicked and lazy servant. There's a reason why you're not yet being referred to as the woman, or the temple, or the sanctuary, or the witnesses of God. There's a reason why that reconsecration of the temple doesn't happen until 2,300 days into the 7-year period. And that's because you haven't picked up your covenant yet. You still think it's all about you. You are not being used to build up the body in assembly, Sabbath after Sabbath, new moon after new moon, holy day after holy day. You're not even concerned about that. That's a nuisance to you. Oh, I don't really want to do that. I'll just put it off a little longer, right? So the first 30 days of that 1,290 day, the latter period of the 7-year period, The first 30 days of that 1290 days, Satan pursues the woman, the wise on earth, those who have picked up their covenant, those who are serving in the house of God, being moved by the Spirit of God, not making up their ministry. But she is protected. So he goes after the rest of her offspring. The many. We don't know. Are they going to make it or are they not? I don't know. I've been talking to you guys. I mean, there's a lot of people on this channel. Certainly more people who've come and gone. But there are a lot of people who've stuck on this channel. And I don't know which of you. I would say there's many of you. But only few of you are going to be chosen, if any. I can't say that you're going to be chosen if you're not bearing the fruit, can I? Now, after that 30 days, that first 30 days, there will be 42 months in which the dragon, who is Satan, we separate this out, okay? Dragon is Satan. The beast is his kingdom. The dragon, as is written in Revelation 13, the dragon gives the beast his power and his throne and great authority. And the beast exercises authority for 42 months. This is the reign of the Antichrist. And it ends with the abomination of desolation, with what God refers to in Daniel 9 as an overspreading of abominations, represented by what we learn in Ezekiel is that cross, counterfeit religion, representing counterfeit religion, that image of Tammuz. Now, does that mean that people who don't use the cross like Mormons, that they're in the clear? No. The cross is an image representing counterfeit religion, representing all that came out of the Harlot Catholic Church. And I can tell you from experience, having been raised Mormon, that they definitely have prostituted themselves. They are 100% prostitutes of the Harlot Catholic Church. They set up massive statues in their visitor centers and temples and in the little garden areas. I remember walking through the garden areas where there were statues outside. These are images. They observe Sunday Sabbath. They observe Easter Sunday. They observe Christmas. All of these things, the Feast of Nativity, all of these things came from the Harlot Catholic Church. So you can't say that they're not under the umbrella of that image. They most definitely are. They belong to her 100%. The 1290th day of that latter half of the 7-year period ends with the abomination of desolation, which incites God's jealous wrath. It is a time of great distress, such as has not happened since the beginning of the earth until then. This is the Great Tribulation. I don't want to hear any of you talk about the tribulation because the word does not talk about the tribulation. There has been tribulation since Jesus was killed, since early Christians were being killed. Then tribulation was removed. So I'm really sick of hearing fake Christians, such as those who follow CBN, talking about Christian persecution across the world. And what they're talking about are fake Christians. They're talking about churches, marketplaces that are not the church, that are being bombed and, oh, that's the persecution of Christians. You have no idea. These are the very people who are going to persecute Christians. There has been tribulation. Paul talked about it. He talked about Christians going into the arena, condemned to die, being fed by wild animals, sawed in half, tortured. These are things that are going on right now. I listened to an interview of Sam Hamdi, the British Muslim journalist who was jailed in America's prisons, in America's detention centers for 18 days. And he came out and told stories that he had heard from other detainees, other prisoners, about Texas, about what goes on in Texas. Oh, such a Christian state. And that's the one detention center that they don't want to go to. These are sick, evil people calling themselves Christian, and I don't want to hear that they are being persecuted. They are the persecutors, along with their filthy image of the Antichrist, fake Israel. Now, the 45 days from the 1290th day to the 1335th day, as spoken of by Jesus to Daniel in Daniel 12, that is the period of great distress. That is the period of great tribulation, of which the multitude in white robes come out. Don't talk to me about pre-trib rapture. Revelation tells you that the multitude in white robes come out of that period. It also doesn't say that it's an ethnic group. In those days, 1335th day, somewhere in those days, Jesus is coming for his elect. And he will pick them from the four corners of the earth, not from some land in the Middle East, calling itself Israel. So Satan is thrown out of the heavenly realms. He no longer has access to accuse God's people. They are sealed. They have returned to God. When he tries to reach them, he can't. So he gives that authority to the beast. During this time, you're going to be working out your covenant. You are going to be purified, made spotless, and refined. Ezekiel 14 talks about the destruction that God brings on his people. He tried to cleanse you. You would not be cleaned. How did he try? He sent his prophets. That's what he does. You would not be brought back into repentance. You would not return to him. You would not listen to the message. You would not listen to the warning. Therefore, you will not be clean until his wrath against you has subsided. Oh, but his wrath is not for us. Don't miscite that. His great wrath is not for his people who actually return, but he has always brought wrath on his people. Read Leviticus 26 and Deuteronomy 28. You will not be clean again until his wrath against you has subsided. Why do you think you're going into this period where the Antichrist is reigning? Why do you think that Revelation 3, when he's speaking to the church in Philadelphia, one of the two lampstands, one of the two witnesses, that he is saying, because you have endured and kept my command to endure patiently, I'm going to spare you from the hour of trial that I'm going to bring on the entire world to test the inhabitants of the earth. Well, what does that mean about you? Why are you staying here? Because you haven't kept his command. So don't try to justify yourself. What does he say in Ezekiel 14? That when Ezekiel sees the conduct of those who have gone through the destruction that God brings, that then he's going to understand that God brings nothing without purpose. And he identifies the destruction that he brings on them as being the thing that changes their conduct and their actions. The thing that purifies, makes spotless, and refines. Go discern this message with God. Go discern the fruit that you're bearing that tells you what group you're part of. And don't take for granted that you can fall from your position. Because even Paul said, I have to continue preaching this message lest I disqualify myself. Even I have told you I have to continue doing this. I cannot get lazy. I cannot say, well, I've already served my 1,260 days. I don't need to do anything else. I don't need to wake up every morning and journal and, get in with God before I start my day. I don't need to receive his daily bread, his daily teaching. I don't need to, sit with him and eat with him from his sacrifice, him being the bread of life, the bread from heaven. I don't need to do that. Have I graduated? I'm just waiting for him to pick me up? No, I'm not. Because I know that I'm going to be killed. And that there's a reason I'm going to be killed, because that's the final testing for me. And so that means I haven't finished this yet. So I say to you the same thing that Paul said. Already you've begun to reign. You're so wise. We're so dumb. You're so strong. We're so weak. Enough of your arrogant attitudes that you've already arrived. Start bearing the fruit. If you've arrived, how come you're not speaking a message? You haven't even arrived to the point that you would speak your testimony on the channel in order to build up the church. So stop acting like you're so secure. Go return to God.